Welcome back, my fellow apocalyptic survivors. Glad you could stop by today. Today we are going to look at the Desert Rat Horde Base. First of all, this is a lounge area. You always need a lounge area in the apocalypse because the apocalypse is kind of stressful. So here I've got plenty of room for my imaginary friends. And over here I've got a pool. And over here I've got supplies for the garden. You can see this sign here. I always try and put this outside my gardens. It tells how many spaces by how many spaces equals how many plants I can put in there. And then I've got that supply box there with seeds and a hoe and that kind of thing. In here I've got chrysanthemum, blueberry, corn, mushrooms, potatoes, many of the apocalyptic staples, and of course cotton there to make bandages and that sort of thing. I try to keep those lootable things whenever I can in place. Now over here I've got trees, because that's the one resource you don't have in the desert is trees. And to grow trees in the desert, you have to dig a hole and then put in some crafted dirt and plant the seed there. However, if you just dig a hole and put in dirt, it blends in so much you'll never find it again. So I always put these poles around it in a frame so I can replant and replant and replant. If you just plant in sand, the trees don't grow very fast if they grow at all. I've seen them where they just stay a sprig forever. So there's the trader's base over there and the valley. This is a beautiful area of the map. Well, let's go back down the hill and go over to the base proper. I always like to design with some visually interesting elements, so I went with the red wood on this one and inverted stairs for trim. I just like the way it adds texture and shadowing to make everything kind of more visually interesting. And that's what it looks like from the front. Looks like I'm missing a block over on the right hand side up there at the top, a red block. I'll have to put that in there. Now right here I've got a safe that I looted from the trader over there, and I will put stuff in it if I am heading out and I don't want to carry tools and stuff. If I'm just going out to loot and shoot, I'll throw a bunch of stuff in there. That way I don't have to do a full organization in the boxes that they belong to and then go collect them again. So I'll just throw all that stuff in there. And this is the fighting deck. These cobblestone frames are not terribly strong, but they are as strong as wood frames. And a lot of people use wood frames, but those are hard to shoot through, so I use those. Here's the primary living and crafting area. You'll notice I've got all the gear I need: workbench, the cement mixer, the forge, got a chem station over there, and over here is where I cook. And I mentioned organization earlier, and so right here under the fire I've got everything to make medicine and fertilizer. And then over here I've got food. All the good food is at the top and the canned food is at the bottom. Canned food will fill you up, but it won't help you increase your health, so you want to eat grown food for that. And then here I've got water and tea and beer and everything to make that stuff. You'll notice down here I've got chrysanthemum and goldenrod and coffee and usually hops. Up here is stuff that's on its way to the trader. I'll collect clothes and all that stuff that I loot and keep the stuff I like and sell off the stuff I don't. Over here is where I keep weapons. So down here are gun parts, and I'll keep these here until I have time to assemble them. And up top here I've got assembled guns and everything to make ammunition and ammunition. I'll combine some of these up to where I've got some 600 level pistols. The rest of those I'll just sell at the trader for cash. Over here at the chem station, I am currently making fertilizer for that garden out there. You can double and sometimes triple production with fertilizer, and that's the way to go. Fertilizer takes a long time to make, but it sure makes your crap count. I put in this fireplace, and while it's mostly decorative, that campfire does have a cooking pot and a grill and all that, so I can cook and render fat into tallow if I need to, if the other one's busy. Check out the roof. There's a great view up here, and on Horde Nights, you can look over the edge here and see what direction the zombies are streaming in from, and that helps you plan things a little bit. But I've got a little lounge table there. Over here I have another fireplace, and once again it is fully functional. It's got the pot and grill and beaker so I can cook or render tallow. Now this big cactus I looted from the trader across the street, and if you don't know how to do that, look at my trader hack video. You can get all kinds of useful stuff from the trader. Up here I've got a water tank or a hot tub. You can also use one of these and never run out of water. There's a trick to that. I think I've got a video on that too. Alright, back downstairs. Now I'm going to go down into the melee room. This is where I typically spend Horde Night if it's a busy Horde Night. Once I learned this design, I've pretty much stuck with it because it just works so well. It looks like a daytime horde is spawning in, but I think I'm going to ignore them and continue this tour. That's what the focus of this is about. Here I've got 4 ladders going up to the next level, and that's because you can go up from any direction. It also makes a great shield from when cops are puking up or exploding. It also adds quite a bit of structural strength because the game system sees that as a turret made of 9 columns. Let me say hello to the neighbors real quick and then we'll get on to this. Good. Okay, enough of that. I want to show you the mine, so hang on to your ass. And maybe you notice I've got hay bales down at the bottom, so if I just drop, I'm still not going to break my leg. Here, of course, I've got food, water, building supplies, stuff to cook with in case I need it. You always got to have that. And now, let's head into the mine. In the desert, there's no shortage of sand, which is great because with plenty of sand you can melt it into glass and make hundreds of glass jars. And you need that because when you cook, you don't get the jars back. That's the great thing about this game is every biome has resources that the other biomes don't have. So I always go back and forth from biome to biome. Here's a little map of where I am. And you can see where the base is. We've come quite a ways from the base. This is really hollowed out here because I ran into a major iron deposit, and so yeah, I hollowed this out. And then I wanted to just see how far down it would go, and so you see that texture that we're approaching? That is bedrock. That's as far as you can go. Try and go any farther, it just clangs. And so I am just following on the bedrock level. I am headed towards another biome. My goal is to dig my way to another biome and then come up and be able to access the resources in that biome, whether it's hunting or trees or more steel. So there's where I am right now. I got a ways to go. Now this doesn't go too much further. It just kind of comes around here, and I've got it aimed at the biome I want to go to, kind of forest or burnt forest. And this is where I have stopped. So there's the base, and you see my arrow up there. That's where I am. That's how far I've dug my way away from the base. You can see the canyon. Yeah, I want to go around the canyon. I don't want to drop out in the canyon. And then I'll keep going over to the biome that's west of here, which is burnt forest. All right, I will head back up, but the tour is not over. I still have plenty to show you, so stick with me. I have built underground bunkers. The problem with that is so often all you can do is hide. You can't really engage with the zombies at all. You just hide and wait for Horde Night to be over, so that's not much fun. It is a good way to store stuff and hide things, but sometimes I've learned that the floor moves up and down, and so you can park a mini bike down here, for instance, and when you come to get it, you can't find it because now it's a couple of blocks underground because the ground is just surged. I don't know, it's weird. All right, let's head back up. I'm going to gun up in case any of them have breached the base and made it inside. It looks clean. I don't think any of them got in, so let's go topside. I'll do a quick 360 of this room. I don't think I did that before. These red cabinets are decorative and handy. They'll hold not as much as a secure storage chest, but enough for my seasonal clothing and all that extra water I ended up with from an earlier project. I think I'm going to ignore this block party going on downstairs and run over here to the river. I want to show you a couple of bridges I built to make it easier to get across the little canyon there into an area that's full of lootable items. Oh, check this out over here on the right. This is something I've started doing, and that is putting down a log next to a bird's nest because they're often hard to find and you run right past them. And if I know I'm going to be in an area again and again, I'll mark them so I can just quickly run through there and collect feathers and eggs. And I'll also do that for like a backpack if it's off the side of the road or something. So that's a little tip. I built this series of stairs and bridges so I could get over there across the river and back, more importantly, back quickly, because I tend to stay out and loot until it gets dark, and then I look up and realize, well, look, I've screwed me. And then I have to come rushing back with an entourage of screaming flesh eaters behind me. I've built these keeping in mind that the zombies have trouble jumping, and so there's a kind of a natural one-way valve built into these. As you can see here, they've got to jump up 1¼ blocks, and then I've got all these spikes underneath and around so that if they try and approach from the side, it will turn them into crawlers, and if they try and crawl towards the front, it'll turn them into dead. My primary concern is not when I'm going this direction, it's when I'm coming back. So that is why this end of this stairway is built with spikes and a block high jump. This makes it harder for them to chase me down in the middle of the night when I'm running full tilt. There's a little hideout over here. Oh, there's another one of my logs. There's a little hideout over here that I have fortified just enough to hide in overnight if I get stuck out here and can't make it back to the base. So let's take a quick look at that. Yeah, I've already looted all this stuff apparently. I've removed the stairs and added a horizontal pole here to reduce them jumping up here. And I put in spikes, and I left the iron fencing around the porch. And of course, spikes by the door. I haven't been here for a little while. I don't think there's much here. I kind of fortified that front door and stashed some food and stuff I'd collected when I was out looting that wasn't valuable enough to haul around. But I will take advantage of the food and the tea while I'm here. This place is a real fixer-upper. I'm not going to spend much time fixing it up because, like I said, I just use this when I'm over in this region. I know I can't get back to the base, and I certainly wouldn't use it on Horde Night. I have fortified this other entrance as well with spikes and a short ladder. You never want to let the ladder go all the way to the ground because then it gives them free access as well. That is a sensational view. A fixer-upper with a sensational view. How do you beat that? This will not last long on the market. I really enjoy the desert biome. I don't know if other people enjoy it as much as I do, but I think it's one of the better biomes to be in. It's just a ton of resources. It's beautiful. The only resources you don't have is, well, wood and food to a large degree, but you can always remedy that by starting a garden and bringing some seeds from another biome, and once you get that going, then you're set. There's plenty of water, plenty of rock, plenty of sand, a lot of good stuff. Let's get out of here. I got something else I want to show you. Let's get back to the other side of the river. Those torches make this a lot easier to find at night. I have come running through here in the dark trying to find my way back across here before I put in these stairs and the bridges, and gone tumbling over the side here, broke my leg, and then I was running slower. And you don't want to be slow in the apocalypse. Out here in the middle of the river, I've got a little project I worked on a couple of videos ago, just to see for my own curiosity if I could build a base underwater. And I was able to, but I'm not really sure what it would be good for, because you can't fight from it, and since you can't fight from it, they would very quickly tear through the walls. I mean, this is just wood, because I didn't want to spend a bunch of resources on something that might be a failed experiment. But it worked out, but you can't fight the zombies, and so they would just swarm you and finally tear their way in. I may build something similar to this, but using that floating design, and so build a cabin out in the middle of a river like this on floating stilts so that it comes right to the surface of the water. The zombies have no problem walking across the bottom or running across the bottom, since they're dead and don't have to breathe, but they can't swim, so they would never be able to get up to the surface area here. And so you'd be safe as long as I could get in. I'd be safe until unless they tore out the columns that I'd built, and then the whole thing would collapse. And here's the backside of the trader. Now it's kind of interesting, in a couple of my other games I'm playing with friends, the undead has managed to rip all this fencing out of the back, and they can just free flow in and out, which seems kind of unfair, because I can't tear the fencing out, and I can't replace the fencing. I can't make any changes on the trader's property, but they sure can. So that doesn't seem fair, does it? Wow, I think that is the first time I have ever gotten batteries. I have no idea what I'd use those for. Now this base is not really done. I don't know if any base is ever really done. I will be adding a garden to this out here kind of behind it and off at a diagonal. This direction over here by where these cars are, and it will be a floating garden that's 5 blocks high. That way I can work it at night without fear of being eaten. And then I will probably add another addition with a walkway, maybe out here, for when I have guests, because I do have guests playing in this world sometimes. Well guys, I think that's it for this video. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you would have done it different. And remember to like, share, subscribe, all the things. And I will see you next time. Until then, enjoy your apocalypse.